Hello, everyone. This is Asma, and today I'm going to be presenting on the Common Core State Standards Initiative. Okay, so these are the main areas that I'm going to cover. Basically, the definition and background of Common Core State Standards Initiatives, the factors leading to it, legacy and impact on the field of education, and the impact on English language learners and their educators, which are basically us. So definition and background, I want to define what the initiatives are. So it's basically a project that was officially endorsed in May 2010 to develop common state standards to prepare students for in the US for college and for their careers. So those are the two main areas that the initiative covered. Now, what are the standards themselves? They're a set of high quality academic standards in mathematics and English, as we can see in the picture here. They outline what students are expected to learn at the end of each grade, and they provide clear signposts along the way for students to follow. Now, to give a quick context of the background and how the Common Core State Standards initiatives came about, I'm going to talk about the 1980s real quick, 1990s, and then an incident that happened in 2000. So in the 1980s, there were a lot of small, there was a movement in the educational system pushing for improvement in public schools because there were a lot of criticisms and complaints. Specifically, they focused on the secondary level. They wanted improvements there. So as a result of that, era, as a result of these reforms and movements, there were some improvements that were made, but only on a small scale, which led to the 1990s. And I was like in the Clinton administration, I think, where they had people started pushing more for national standards. They wanted standards that kind of went across the board and didn't only impact a few local communities. So they had the Educate America Act. They had this panel that they created for where they enacted national standards. They didn't force all states to follow it, but they were blueprints that they created for them to follow. Now, in 2001, there was a No Child Left Behind Act. Now, this act had a huge impact on where we stand today with the Common Core State Standard initiatives, and I want to explain that in the coming slide. So one of the main factors that led to this initiative was the No Child Left Behind Act. Why? Because there was increased variation between state standards. Why? Because they were free, basically, to set independent starting points. So some states manipulated their license to set their own starting points and based it on like the lowest performing schools in their district, which led them to have these low standards, and students started scoring higher. So it made their schools look basically good. So that's kind of how it was used. Poor student performances on international level was witnessed more and more, and then achievement gaps between ethnic groups were widening. So all of those negative implications led to people like stopping and thinking, okay, we need to like make research and try and find out where the problem is and see how we can fix it. So in the 2005, 6, 7, and 8, a lot of extensive studies were made, which focused on basically studying how they can have certain states work together to create standards and see how their students perform. The results were positive, and that led to the Common Core State Standards initiatives. And I'm going to explain it a little bit more later. One more factor that led to the development of this initiative was the grants that were offered politically. Billions of dollars were covered where they provided the incentive for schools and states to enforce these standards. So that was one of the things that led to that. Now, there were three national organizations that spearheaded the whole initiative. It was the National Governors Association, the Council of Chief State Schools Officers, and the Education Trust, which they called Achieve. Together, they created this advisory panel, which consisted of 22 experts in the field who decided that they needed 5 action steps, which later led to the creation of the Common Core State Standards Initiative. So that's basically where we stand today and how it came about. Now, what's its legacy and impact on the field of education today? Some are positive, some are negative, it's like everything. So there's consistency, for example, across the states, develop skills for students for college, to gear them, to prepare them for college and for work, improved educational rankings in the US in general as compared to where it was before. On the other hand, educators and students were overwhelmed, they were stressed, they felt there was a short amount of time to apply all these standards and a difficult transition. So some are positive and negative, as we can see. Now, where does it actually stand today and where it's actually enforced? It's actually across 41 different states, which is a lot, plus the District of Columbia, plus 4 territories. So it really is vast where the Common Core state standards are applied today as a result of this initiative. Impact on English language learners and teachers of English language learners, which are basically us. So on the students, a lot needed to be covered for our our ELs. So they had to worry about content, about learning a new language, about the assessment, about the Common Core standards that go with that. And for teachers, they had to worry about like how they're going to actually enforce and teach the syllabus, which is really tailored for students to whom English is their L1 or studied English all their lives, for example, right? So that was kind of the issue there. So the demands for the students and the demands for the teachers and how to bridge the gap between these two different types of students was where. Now there's a statement here that says, the Common Core state standards explicitly states that these implementations, even though they're negative, are issues that lie beyond the scope of their task. So I thought that was really interesting. So basically they're saying it's not really our business. But fortunately for us as teachers, there are standards that exist with considerable effort that was made to align them to the Common Core state standards. They've made to analyze and modify by 3 different groups: multi-state associations, professional organizations as TESOL, very common. This is where we are at. This is where we are, and individual states such as New York State Engage NY, which is what we are actually applying in one of our courses for teaching English as a new language with Professor Young. And basically we are following the New York State bilingual Common Core initiatives, and that's where it's about. So what do I think about this whole thing? I think it's challenging to enforce these principles and concepts, but is it worth it? Absolutely. I think with a lot of training for us teachers, we can definitely prepare ourselves to be where we can reach for that today. Thank you so much.